your voice.
And we're here. Haven't been here for a while. In fact, the first time for the month of May. And May is almost done, the final Monday. So welcome to Your Voice with the NRP for Monday, May 27th. 12 years ago on this day, the father of modern-day Nevis transition, Dr. the Honorable Simeon Daniel. It was a Sunday. We will reflect tonight. We've got two persons in the house. First, the party leader, the Honorable Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, the representative for the great parish of St. James, constituency number 4, and also with us from Sim Daniel's home parish, Rohan Isles, caretaker for constituency number 5. It's always good to have a twosome in the house. Good evening, Doc.
Good evening, and of course it's always great to be here, company of two great men. Yes, you did mention at the top, it's the anniversary, the 12th anniversary of my dad's passing. Wasn't really busy on Facebook or anything like that. I don't know, each year you feel that you've gotten over that, emotional feeling, and then you realize that you are still very much, in tune and in touch. And so certainly, I can relate, I can empathize to persons who have lost loved ones. And I can't say that with time you would get over the loss. It becomes more manageable. And, my father is someone who I spent a lot of time around growing up. I think he's the reason why I'm sitting in this chair tonight, overcome by my upbringing and the lessons that were taught to me. At some point in time, you just feel really, compelled to take some action. And as he would have penned to me before he passed, once you have done your best, angels can do no more. And I do remind myself of that very often in the midst of what appears to be insurmountable feats. I'm very grounded in knowing that I have inner strength. I'm very grounded in knowing that God is with me all the way, and feel very comfortable knowing that the NRP, and really I can say the NRP shaped my dad in terms of, his principles, what he stood for. And I'm happy to say that NRP today, we still uphold those same principles. And I do feel that my colleagues and I, the other caretakers, I think we're here at this point in time because we all felt the pain that our people were feeling, and notwithstanding how insurmountable it seemed, we just realized that we needed to step up and do our best. And so I would say my dad is gone. He has been gone for 12 years, but certainly his memory, his teachings live on in me, and I am proud to be the daughter of the Honorable Dr. Simeon Daniel.
And of course, Nevis more than ever needs another Daniel. Rohan, welcome. Good evening to you. You, of course, hail from the hometown, so to speak, of the late national hero, Dr. the Honorable Simeon Daniel, a man who never drew attention to himself. In fact, during his lifetime, he never wanted anything to be named after him. But up in Barnesgut, on the old water tank, his image has been painted there, and the people of Barnesgut come together annually to revere and to remember the great leader, certainly the best that we have had. What are your memories growing up of Dr. Simeon Daniel?
Well, so it's good to be back on Your Voice with the NRP as we continue to do our best to amplify the voice of our constituents. Just want to, before I get into the meat of your question, to extend birthday greetings to Marva Jeffers here in Conground, celebrated yesterday, and to all those who are celebrating this week, be it an anniversary or birthday, celebrating with you and wish you all the best. And to those who mourn, as usual, we continue to hold you in our prayers. Good things come from Bandsgate. We change that. Great things come from Bandsgate. Of course, Dr. Simeon Daniel, and of course our party leader's offspring. She has, rights to claim in Bandsgate. And as you said, he never wanted anything, and that was the measure of the man. His commitment to people was what was really relevant for him, and all the other things were of no moment. And I think, I know that his impact on many people across the island of Nevis, and that is why today we can happily say the father of modern day Nevis, and the path he would have set for Nevis. And it's good to be in a time, and you have continually said it's going to take a new Daniel. I've used that phrase many a times, and I believe wholeheartedly that would be the case, and not just because Dr. Daniel is our party leader, but it is a reminder of what was and what can be when you look at how party leader operates, and you see so much of what you would have heard of Dr. Simeon Daniel in Bandsgate. Even as he would have not wanted anything in his honor, we have the hometown rights to honor him, and so we did that, and we continue to believe in what he would have stood for, and what he really wanted for our people. And you look back at home ownership, and you look back at education and then finance, and what really stands out for me, Steve, is that Dr. Daniel had the vision beyond the time in which he operated. So much so that he set a foundation that if we simply followed in that kind of footstep, we would have been 10 times farther than we are today. And I mean, of course, people have their own vision and their own style of leadership, but we have seen what works. And we have a new dynamic team that can build on what Simeon Daniel left for us to build on, and it is clear that once we invest in people, and that has been the NRP's way, and that will continue to be the NRP's way. You look at Dr. Daniel and you look at J.W. Parry, and you see that once you are committed to moving people upward and onward, you find a way. And that has always been the case with the NRP. In people may say uncharted waters, but we've been here before, and we understand what was needed then and what is needed now. And because of that, we are positioning ourselves to once again bring new visions to a place where they can be comfortable, and to look to the future with a sense of hope and that level of pride that said, it's good to be in a vision again. And so you look back at Sim Daniel, and you look at the way he would have lived his life. One of the things I take comfort in is that there is, as you would, he doesn't want anything named after him. And I operate in that kind of manner. I just go under the radar. That's just me. I do what I need to do, and that is because once you understand what it is that you want to do, accolades will come left, right, and center, and wherever else. You don't need to look for those things. And so I am committed to that particular cause in doing what I can do to assist the visions in that move towards that greater stability and that level of comfort, not just for themselves now, but for their families in the future. And Bandsgate is always proud to hear Dr. Simeon Daniel's name echoed, and to know that he walked the streets of Bandsgate and he visited the homes in Bandsgate, and we are quite familiar with who he is and what he stood for. And so to come from Bandsgate is good.
It's a good place.
To come from the place of modern day Nevis is great.
Thank you very much. During his time, of course, the NRP was branded by the 3 Ps, one of which was peace. In the last couple of weeks, the peace in Nevis has been shattered, of course, on Friday, May the 24th. Some of us were in bed already. I certainly was, when I was awoken by the news that there had been a double shooting in Hamilton. One young lady, Joelle, age 36, succumbed to her injuries. Her brother, nursing injuries, gunshot wounds, and I know there were attempts to take him over to St. Kitts today. I don't know if that transaction was done. But your thoughts, Dr. Daniel Hodge, on this new spate of crime, which has hit Nevis, specifically Hamilton, even as we move into that season when we should be coming together to celebrate Mango Festival, Culturama 50.
You know, I was really shocked. I'm not even sure if I could find the words to describe the feeling when you had to imagine what Joel experienced, and her brother and her mother, of course. And we have spoken so much about crime and the need to address crime. And, you know, recently we heard of the amnesty program. We have heard of new laws being put in place. And really, when we have to assess the situation from a distance, I think we really have to start looking at the internalities. We look at all of the factors that come after. But that question, what brings someone to that point where they can, whether it's a gun, a machete, knife, rock, to, with intent, take someone else's life. And that is something that, you know, there is no easy answer to. There are some persons who, you know, are prepared to lose their life to seek vengeance. And when it comes to a situation like that, how do you address it? I've heard the cry for, you know, bring back the death penalty. I've heard the cry to tighten up our borders and to keep out the guns. But really and truly, I think we have to, as a people, come back to a place where we can understand, where you get the whole village involved, where people are no longer afraid to say what they see. As our borders open up, it becomes more and more complex, because you now have to look at different cultures, and what may be acceptable, you know, in one area, it may not be acceptable here. So day by day, it's becoming more and more complex as to how we can get a handle on this crime situation. I do believe going to the heart, finding a way to reach the hearts of people, no matter where you're from. I think that is something that requires a sense of empathy. It requires a sense of understanding that because something may seem grotesque and you know, out of the norm for me, it may not be that way for someone else. And so having that patience and that understanding, which sometimes may take years to, as they would say, peel back the layers and to find out what is happening. Now, you can say that for one person, but then there are many people. And once you've gotten past a certain age, it becomes even more difficult to bring about some type of behavioral change. And so, you know, we're looking at how long something like this may take. Given all of the legislation, the amnesties, the border control, etc., we're really talking about going back to kindergarten and starting over with a new modus operandi as to how we can try to eliminate crime. The expertise and, all of these things that are required, it's difficult because when you look at, the big developed countries, they struggle with crime as well. I am one who really believe that, we're a small island and there are things that we can do here because we are so much more intimate with each other. Things that could possibly work here may not work elsewhere. And so this is where we start to, talk about being creative and come up with ideas and not just, take a cookie cutter and say, well, we're going to try this that was used in the US or in some larger area. So we really have to sit down and take the time to listen to the people who are actually engaged, involved, who may have a tendency to go in that area. So I see a number of things that are required in terms of, the patience, understanding that you have to have some room and some space to engage all sectors. And, there's some who would feel that people just need to behave and, but we really have to understand that not two people think the same way. And if people are going to be listening and would be willing to make a change, they must feel that, the message is coming from a place of genuine concern. It's not just a fix, it's a genuine concern about the development of our people, the development of our communities. Because as we say, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to rhyme here, but as we say, at the end of the day, crime is really something that impacts all of us. And so we must have that vested interest. What I think is happening right now, we cannot continue with the top-down approach. I say this or else. I think we really need to start creating that space so that people can feel comfortable enough to engage in conversations.
Okay, I think we've got a first caller for the evening. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP.
Mr. Manners, good night.
Hi, good night. You're in early tonight.
I'm not here.
Well, long time in.
Well, nice to have you.
Comrade leader, the next leader. Good night. Dr. Johnny.
You're hearing? Yeah, okay.
You hear me?
He's saying good night to you, Dr. Hart.
Good night, good night. I wasn't hearing initially.
She was having a little technical difficulty, but we're better off now. Go ahead.
Okay. And the man that rode through the aisle. Good night.
Good night.
Yes. So, I say, this night may the anniversary of NRP.
The passing of the father,
The passing.
the father of modern day Nevis, who is also the father of the party leader, the great Dr. the Honorable Simeon Daniel, national hero.
Oh, okay. So it look like me do a great thing. That the birthday of the past Chief Minister of Munster.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we celebrate the 15th.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Yeah. Right. But we need to ask this question because this amnesty and all, and they're foolishness to me. Make a talk it straight. You shoulda, you coulda, and make a talk it straight, right? So, the drugs trade richer than the government budget. How are you going to negotiate that? You get the point I'm making?
Yeah, we're hearing. Yeah, we're listening.
You're actually richer. So then, therefore, somebody I go up and say, enough, enough. Somebody go up and put down their foot. You catch me?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because one millionaire, it's difficult to one poor man reach 1 millionaire. 1 millionaire. You know, the millionaire is quicker reach the poor man, because, you know, the poor man a beggar.
Mm-hmm.
And need, but the millionaire no need. So is that is me decide me go you know, I forgot she forgot conversation with me because the bomb. You get that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it got something now you call law and order. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
And the government control that. Then you will say, well, because the drug trade, the richer, the weaponry, so you're more powerful than the government, because they can afford the sophisticated, the night, the night goggles, you get me?
Mm-hmm.
When the government struggle, because remember the government now have to deal with the poor people, the hospital, the roads, you know, so
Yeah.
they can't burn up all their resources. Just not that.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point about it now. Why you go do? Reforming. But then, remember at the same time now, people easily get bribed. Because what happened now, I will go back to the scripture. What is scripture saying at the end time? Men shall be lovers of themselves. You get that?
Yeah. Yeah. We got you.
Everybody you see them need. I mean, one village raise one child. That's how me raise. But let me tell you something. That they don't know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You get me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because if you even check, the one house, 2 room, just 2 room, you know, so, you know, outside toilet and stuff, and a 2 room, 5, 6, 10 a week, and I will lap over one another. If I'm not comfortable, wake up tomorrow morning, go look for the animal, this, you know, that electricity, you know, moonlight, you jump stories, you know, whatnot. Nowadays, days, you don't need one TV in the living room. Everybody wants TV in their own bedroom.
Yep.
You get that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you see now and then now, to the older parents, what they used to do, them see family, and then they used to bust up. Then I used to bust up none. The matter of fact, they didn't go and do any left no will, because they expect the continuation. But no. Are we very selfish now? Are we want our own?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And are we not share no more? You see where we gone?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So
caller,
then
what I would say, right? When we look at the crime situation, the murder that took place recently, Joel, you know.
Friday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You see, yes, we speak about the drug trafficking and we speak about the gangs, etc. But there's really not going to be one size fit all.
Mm-hmm.
There must be different approaches as to how we can deal with this problem. And so, as you say, need is one of the reasons why some people get drawn into that type of activity. And that's where, you know, the penalties and those sort of things may come in. But crime is not a easy problem to solve. It cannot be a one approach across the board. It's really a societal problem that we really, like I said, engage the persons who are involved and try to come up with solutions that can go to a certain way. You know, I'm not going to talk about the peace program and whether or not that was effective or not. Certain things are effective for a certain period of time. Times change. You must change your programs and your policies based on what you're dealing with at any particular point in time. So I do agree with the caller. The village going back to where everybody was looking out for each other, compared to now where it's about me. And I was talking to a youngster just last night who was saying, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, thank you, caller. Thank you for being our first caller.
Sometimes you don't even know why others may have an issue with you. It could be the way you walk. It could be, the car that you have, the shoes that you. Sometimes you don't even know, and so sometimes you just have to be humble and understand that you just cannot be as responsive and try to be combative when those situations come up.
No, sorry. Go ahead. No, you said earlier that you think we should go to the heart of it. Now, the Premier made a 3-minute speech. Normal run-of-the-mill stuff, if you ask me. The Honorable Spencer Brand also made a presentation, a little bit more expansive, as did yourself and the caretaker for the area, J.D. Keynes. I agree that crime is everybody's business. We hear that from politicians all the time. We don't always see it manifested. Have you got a call since Friday night asking you, J.D. Keynes, the Honorable Spencer Brand, to partner with the Premier to walk through the area?
That call would not come. That call would not come.
But you said we need to go to the heart. So we need to go not only to talk to the people of Hamilton, to make sure they're getting counseling in all of this, and to get to the root of this problem. This is 3 occasions of violence in the last couple of weeks. So leadership should use this as an opportunity to partner with opposition and let the cameras show all 4 of you walking through the village to talk to the young people. You say that call wouldn't come?
The call wouldn't come, and I take exception when people say that they don't see a difference in the parties, because I can tell you that there are distinct differences between the way that NRP would approach certain situations compared to the way that the CCM would approach situations. And so we can, look back quickly during the period of COVID when the invitation was extended to collaborate regarding how we can deal with the COVID matter. I remember from the NRP perspective, we took a more social approach, get the doctors involved. Again, because of our small size and the number of doctors, we indicated let the doctors be the one to talk to the people in the community. The ratios could be small enough so that you can really get a good understanding of what persons' underlying conditions may be and whether or not they may be a candidate for the vaccine. That was our approach. Basically, get the doctors involved to speak with the patients. The Premier had a different approach. Look at me, I did mine, so you do it. You wait for, etc. But then, what was disheartening about that? He did not accept our suggestions, but then went on to say, "Oh, I extended an olive branch, and nobody came to help me." Because if you do not do it his way, then it's not helping him. There is no understanding, well, let's meet at a middle ground because I see it this way and you see it that way. So fundamentally, there are different approaches to governance, to dealing with people, and the CCM's approach is very different than an approach that the NRP will take.
1 minute to 9. We're due for a break. Rohan, the victim is close to your age. Perhaps went to school together. She's a well-known girl. We've got another caller. Let's take that one. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP.
Good evening, Steve, and
good evening,
Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge.
Good evening.
I first of all want to say I'm agreeing with you, the party leader, that there's a marked difference between how the NRP functions, how it treats crime. Okay?
You there? Caller, you dropped out a bit. You dropped out a bit.
Sorry,
Uh-huh.
sorry. Yeah. No, I want to also endorse the position taken by the Dr. Hodge that look, we have to go back to the even from the kindergarten. So we have to have a prevention strategy, because the idea that you are going to only deal with what is happening now, you are dealing with symptoms. You want to deal with the cause. So you want to get into people's heads, into their minds. As I'm agreeing with her, we have to reach the heart to see and to help and get the families, the church, the school, the community to have a four-pronged approach where everybody understands. I mean, you just said, Steve, that crime is everybody's business, but it doesn't look. It depends on how we understand it. Is the business of the people in government, and they're not engaging. So the essential problem, until we see rolled out, and I am sure the NRP can do this, a prevention program, a rehabilitation program, and one which deals with security. So then you would stop this conveyor belt of people to criminal activity. If we don't address that, and that has to be addressed from the school, the home, and the home, and with to a lesser extent the church. But certainly, to say that there is no difference between the NRP and the CCM in terms of managing needs, or in particularly as it relates to crime, we take the view that we can prevent crime by engaging people. Not just this week, Steve, because you have a murder, and not next week, but this is not a stop-and-start business. This is consistent, organized, planned intervention in families, in communities, and so on. Until the NRP can do that, but we haven't seen anything like that from the CCM.
Yep.
And so I want to endorse what the political leader of the party is saying, that you have to step back and go right back down to deal with the causes. Because see, if you go to the doctor and you are suffering from a particular ailment, shouldn't the doctor have a sense of what causes the ailment?
Exactly.
And the doctor prescribes the medication based on the cause of the ailment. So, to me, it's very elementary, and I think NRP has it right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rohan, very quickly, we're due for a break. What is this loss of human capital, especially young people, 36 years of age, cut down in the prime of her life, leaving a 13-year-old son? What is that doing to Nigerian society?
Well, Steve, difficult moments on Friday night, especially for our family. Not many people know. Joel was a close family friend. Not going to go into the history of that. The son, very close to our oldest daughter, and as they would have gone to St. Thomas's Primary School, and so they share that athletic connection, both athletes in their own right, and so the younger ones, and it's difficult for adults, and it's twice as difficult for children because they don't understand circumstances. They just know that person is no longer there. And one of the difficult things that for me was to hear how young Wanda was dealing with the situation. And when you talk about loss of capital, I'm talking about what is the long-term effect on families, and how do they deal with situations like, it's one thing to lose somebody you love naturally. It is another thing to have to deal with it in circumstances like these. My thing, though, Steve, is that we have long been dealing with the situation of crime by trying to cut off the head. You have a tree in your yard, and you take off the top of the tree, and the tree grows back, and you take off the top of the tree again. we cannot solve the problem of crime like that. Dr. Hodge would have said it, and it's perfectly said in the sense of the classroom and as a teacher. That is where you begin, in teaching our young people how to solve problems. Because we have seen, and what we are seeing now is that our young men and women feel that it is the only appropriate way to deal with your interpersonal issues is by grabbing a gun or a knife or some kind of object to solve your problems. Because for some apparent reason, you get this rush of power and momentary satisfaction, but your mind is never at ease. And I don't see, for me, it's difficult to understand how people live like that. And there's always this tension in your body and this magnifying glass kind of operation, because you're always scrutinizing and looking left and looking right and trying to find out, are you safe, are you not? That is difficult. And as teachers, we tried our best to instill in our people that there are different ways to deal with situations like these. We have all heard and spoken about it takes a village to raise a child. We come to the reality that the influence of raising a child by a village has long gone back to Africa. And we have accepted the norms of the European and the American way of life. If a man hit you, whether by accident or intentionally, you smack him back, but twice as hard. Because we believe that in order to ensure that such a thing doesn't happen again, we are supposed to eliminate the threat. Sometimes there is no threat. But we are not dealing with the issues as we ought to deal with the issues. I mean, I would not be surprised if we were able to, and I'm certain we are going to have the opportunity to try, to understand what is the issue. And we are going to find that some of these things are clear misunderstandings and situations that could have been remedied through meaningful conversations. Because listening is key. I listen and I hear of these young men who pass through gun violence, and you hear people, because Nevis is small, and you hear people say, "Is XY do it?" They grew up together. They walked the streets of Charlestown together, played on the same cricket field and the same football field, shared classrooms and friends. What are we not doing right? Everybody want to talk about we can do. What are we not doing right? I grew up, and I said this to some of my friends. I grew up in Barnesgate. I love the place. And as young men, we grew up in the church. You get older and we stop going to church. We sit on the side of the road, right? And people who passed over to church, and we sit on the side of the street, and they go to church, and when church is finished, they pass and say, "Hey, you didn't come to church." Me, I'm a little, let's say smart. And I always would, you pass and you didn't invite me to church. What I'm saying is, if there is a vested interest, show it. Because your disappointment means nothing if you didn't have an interest. Mm-hmm. You can't be so mad and upset about what is happening, but you, with the opportunity to have some positive impact, you didn't do anything about it. And so every person who, and I know people are hurting, who feel what is happening and is tired of it, what are you doing? Sometimes we underestimate our power as human beings, because it may be one single phrase or 1 2-minute conversation that leads to changing lives. And if we would do that, it doesn't take much to say, what's going on with you? How are you doing? You and I may not have any real connection, but I would have shown an interest, and you may, well want to release some burden or some issue. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that is all it is. And the response to the dynamics of crime is a multifaceted one, and we have got to begin to talk truth to these situations. Mm-hmm. As parents, we have got to be responsible for our children at 5 years and 6 years. When we tell them if somebody smack you, smack them back. Mm-hmm. But we are forgetting to say, listen, this is the process to how you resolve this issue. If it comes, because I can't tell parents how to deal with situations after a while. If it comes to the need to defend yourself, then you do that. But what should you do first? Because I miss my Janice, and I am not a thing against Janice, but I have something else going on with me. Janice is the closest person. We are missing the trick. Listen, talking out things, and people that say when you talk, people don't listen. There's a power in listening. I have proven that. There is an ultimate power in listening, and to listen doesn't mean you sit down and pretend to hear, because you're listening for what is being said, you're listening for what isn't being said, and then you're trying to make a connection. We are missing the trick. As churches, we have got a role to play. One time one student asked me years ago, I said, well, how come church doors are always closed? A powerful question to ask. At that time, as a young teacher, I didn't have an answer for that. But as they grow up, they are observing things. And we have got to talk to the power. As adults, we have a high tendency of hypocrisy. And we don't seem to see that has an impact on young people growing up. Because we tell them, you should do this, and then you turn around and you feel they're not watching, and you do the very same thing. There is a lot of ills that go unreported, and that's that we don't know. But because of who is perpetrating such, we say sweep them under the rug. We've gotten to the place where we're not even sweeping anymore. We just simply see it and don't see it. There's a high level of white-collared crime. Nobody's being punished for them. So we have a high level of hypocrisy when we talk about crime, because what seems to matter now is only violent crime. Because only that affects people. Nothing else affects people. And so when you take from people and they feel a certain kind of way about it, that doesn't affect them, their livelihood and their families. We have got to be honest about how we are dealing with situations. Our moral compasses can't be straight for us. You look at other people and you're doing the same thing they're doing, but you make sure that the public doesn't see your issues, but you highlight these. Solving violent crime. Yes, we need to close the borders or tighten them, but we're humans. So you can tighten them as much as you feel. We often say in a good way, where there's a will, there's a way. To break or to stymie this is to break the will to cause damage. And you break the will by making people feel and making them understand there's a better way to solving your issues. A lot of these violent crimes are committed in the heat of the moment. Steve, I had the honor of doing some training in Trinidad, and one of the things I had to do was to present a paper on whether I agreed or disagreed with capital punishment. What do you call it? Death chamber and those kind of things. And it would be, I was amazed at what the evidence showed. That these, you look at these crimes, you're committed in the heat of passion. If you do me something and I feel aggrieved by it, and when I go down the road and I talk to my friends, the problem is your friends got issues too. And so they're feeling, but the best thing for you to do is meet the man around the corner and back him a hard slap. You hit a man a hard slap and the man got gone. The reality is we are building on people's frustration and the anger, and we're not trying to find a way. You want the tree out of your yard, Steve? You dig it up from the root.
Thank you very much. Rohan Al's Talking Truth to Power. We'll take a break and then we'll be right back.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
And we're back on Your Voice with the NRP for Monday, May 27th, the 12th anniversary of the passing of the great Dr. Sir Simeon Daniel, national hero. Janice, you said that the NRP does things differently. One of our callers said the same thing. We only hear from this government when they are electioneering, as they're doing now as we lead into Culturama. It's clear to me. I don't know if it's clear to you. But the NRP is going to St. Thomas's tomorrow to talk to the people. We in Gingerland were promised when they had the last town hall meeting about the airport that they're coming in May. May is done. We haven't heard from them. But you're going to talk to the people. Tell us about tomorrow's activity.
Well, in St. Thomas's, we decided that we would have a town hall meeting there. It's, an area where a lot of people can get to. But the issues and the concerns that have been raised over and over again really requires a more focused attention approach. We have seen from January increases in food at the supply office. I think it was March we had increases in the water bill. Then in May, we have increases in healthcare services. And now we're on the verge of increases in the electricity bills. And the problem is that when you look at the people who are struggling, they're being pushed further and further into poverty. Because when you have people with a salary of maybe $3,000 or $4,000 per month, no increments, no increases, the job opportunities, the amount of high-paying jobs are not what we would want. You end up where you find that people are having expenses that outweigh their income. And so you start to see different types of arrangements so that people can survive. The problem is that the government seems to have absolutely no concern whatsoever how you get it done. No concern how you get it done. Just know that this is the bill and you must do it. When we see the amount of people who struggle to keep the electricity on, because when Jane has an electricity bill for $100, $150, and she is struggling to pay it, they're going to cut off her electricity. But then you're going to hear about corporations and businesses and friends of officials with thousands of dollars in arrears. And it's okay. And so it is clear to us that this government is simply trying to eradicate a certain class of people from the US. When we look at the electricity bills and the new tariffs that come out, I'm going to just scan through my notes here, because the bills that they had initially, the tariff that they had, it was basically where you needed to pay. It was on the first 50 units, you'd pay 51 cents. The next 75 units, 49 cents. And the next, anything above 125 units, then it's 47 cents. You notice it went from 51, you use some more, it went down to 49, and if you use more, it's a 47. When you look at the research, there are very few people who are going to use less than 200 kilowatt hours.
We've got a caller. Could you hold that thought? Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice, the NRP. We've got the party leader as well as Rohan Isles. Good night.
Yes, Steve, what are you? Good night.
Hey, good night.
Yes. Mr. Daniel, I've been to a town hall meeting with the former Prime Minister. And when that man laid out what he has done for Nevis, $500 million, and you all ain't carrying that to the vagabond fellow? The 10 lip fellow? Come on, you got things to, you got ammunition, to deal with he.
Yes, and
I really have to sit down.
No, we are aware of these issues. We have brought it to the attention. Right now, he has wasted the $500 million. Right now, he's trying to recoup on the backs of poor people. And these are the issues that we are seeing.
The people is suffering, Miss Daniel. And you have to carry it to them, because they don't care. Even down here, we watching the government don't care. Every minute they're on a plane and poor people suffering. Them kind of things ain't gonna work here. I want to tell you, I always think about this. The last time I visit Nevis is the Freedom Concert show. And when I walk from the park, come down in the morning from the show, that little piece of body with Sim Daniel, when we put you back there, that's got to move. We want a full body as Sim Daniel in Charlestown. That's a disrespect. Carry that somewhere else. Carry that somewhere else. We need a full body. That guy and El Camino Willet, out of Christina disaster, has hold this country think it's Nevis together. We let with the cricket and Sim Daniel with the politics and leadership in Nevis, along with Simmons in St. Kitts. Miss Daniel, you have ammunition, use it and get rid of the guy and put the country on the right road. Have a good night, Steve. I will be back listening to you.
Thank you very much for calling as usual.
Okay, good night and thanks. And I can sense the frustration, and I understand why people are frustrated, because having received $500 million under J.W. Parry, you weren't getting those allowances.
Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP. Good evening, caller. Whoop. I think we lost that one. Caller, please call back or fault on this end. Go ahead, Dr. Daniel Hodge.
Yeah. So when you look at how Nevis was flourishing without the monies coming from St. Kitts as they were under Premier Brantley, and to see that all of that money was squandered. And as I said from the beginning, when you get talents and you bury them, they would not grow. The monies that he received went into roads and walls. Roads and walls do not grow. It's not an investment. That is money that is being buried. And that is why we have the problems that we have today. Because when those monies were buried, there was nothing to generate revenue. And as we look at the situation now, no new foreign direct investment to speak of. And when you do not have foreign direct investment, you must find revenue somewhere. And where do they find it but from the poor people? And that is why we say, and the way that they go about doing it is even more hurtful. Because here before, when we had very few people, like I said, would use 200 units. Because 200 units is where you have your first 50 units at a lower price, then the next 75, and additional 75. So we went from, as your usage increased, the cost decreased, right? It went from 51 to 49 to 47 cents per kilowatt hour. look at what they are proposing now for June. From 51 cents per kilowatt hour, they're now going to 65 cents for the first 50. Now you would imagine for the next 75 units it would go down as it did before.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? It's gone up to 70. Then anything above 125 units doesn't go down like it was before. It goes even higher. So under the old tariff scales, we went from 51 cents. As you used more, it dropped to 49. As you used more, it dropped to 47. Under this system that they're proposing, you start at 65 cents, and then as you use more, it goes up to 70 cents, and as you use more, it goes up to 75 cents. And so, understanding that very few people are going to be using 50 units and 75 units. You're going to be using above 125 units. Then the bulk of your bill is going to be calculated on 75 cents per kilowatt hour. And so when you translate that, it is almost like a 60% increase just for the usage. And there was a study done by the World Bank. The average rate per kilowatt hour in the Caribbean is about 68 cents. And we have now gone up to 75 cents. Because trust me, that 200 units, the first 200 units we have that scale, that's like a one-bedroom house and maybe a ceiling fan. When you look at a family where you have children, the fridge, the microwave going, the internet going, the washing machine, you know, you're going to be up there around 750 to 1,000 units. And that is where the kicker comes in. Because now your bill is going to be increased by above 60% overall. So, you know, the way that it's presented, it's increased by 14 cents and 21 cents and 28 cents, right? But look at how that is impacting. And I can't understand why, as your usage increase, the charge goes up. I mean, that's unheard of. And so this is real. And it seems to me that all of a sudden people are using more because the bills are more than doubling.
Well, before I left home tonight, there were guys from Nevlec on Nevis Television, and they were saying, of course, even in May, it's hotter than July, and the use of fans and air conditioning and so on has been on the increase. That's the point they were making. But for goodness sake, we're in the month of May. They said they had moved from using 9 megawatts. They're now bumping up on 11 megawatts. So that kind of portends that in Culturama we may have the systems crashing. But yes, because it's so hot, there's a lot of usage. That's what the spokespeople for Nevlec was saying tonight.
Yeah. Well, let us account for school is going to close too, and children are going to be home.
I didn't even think of that.
Oh, okay. And the
influx of everybody
that is going to
because, of course, the cost of living here, supermarkets, everybody is going to bring a barrel. So you got stuff to put in your fridge and your freezers and all of that. So we're going to have a hot summer.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen that the heat is going to extend all the way down to September. So
October.
Well, October now.
That's what they're saying.
Oh, my goodness me. So you could imagine the stretch of very high bills for that period of time. Steve, I get the problem. Well, I get the situation we're in. You go back and you see why we have the issue. Geothermal could have solved this. But when you make things political footballs, Gunnar just said the chicken come home to roost. And unfortunately, we are the ones having to block the feathers because we are the ones carrying the burden. You look around and this government in power seems to just, well, let me not say seems, just don't care. And probably the worst timing ever to do certain things. But we expected this, and I think I've said many a times when water weight went up and the tax from solid waste was shifted, I have said many a times more is coming. More is coming. I wouldn't be surprised if they find something else.
And that is the concern.
Mhm.
That is the concern, and that is why we must have the town hall meeting. People must be aware of what is happening, because if we don't bring this to the attention of people, they will continue to increase, because it is clear. They know that people are struggling.
You think they know?
They must know.
Listen,
must know.
I am baffled. How every week on a Wednesday, there's a soliloquy of an hour. Last week he was devoted to scaremongering. Guyanese this and Guyanese this and NRP that. I always contend that a leader who's been in office for 11 years and has to revert to that kind of diarrhea is admitting failure.
Yeah.
And then he goes into the stories of how every week, how there's this person who from another country who he meet at breakfast and then he meets somewhere at lunch. That in itself is an admission that things are tight, that people have to be scrambling to make ends meet. And then, you know, last weekend I drove into town and I saw the police markers on the side of the road from Grove Park going down the road. I thought the police were doing searches for drugs and ammunition. I stopped by the park and one guy told me about something and I heard Carlisle and Daly talking about it. That area has become a red light district. I was shocked when I heard that. That again is clear evidence that people are doing just about everything to make ends meet, and that's not the Nevis we know.
Yep. I mean that is so true. For me, Steve, you go back and from.
Okay, I think we've got a caller back. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP.
Good night to
Good night.
Yeah, the panelists we've got. The party leader and Rowan Isles.
party
Yes.
leader
Good night.
Good night.
and Rohan Isles.
Good night. Good night.
And Steve, good to have you back.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to be. I missed it.
No, my thing is poor planning. And I don't think that because of the situation that we are in, the planning is poor and bad. Let's take the poultry farm, for example. I like the idea of the poultry farm. I like the local stuff. Honestly, I like it. And I pray for it. Because, you know, sometimes you get inferior things and stuff from outside and so on. So I support it. But then it's poor planning. The cart was before the horse. Now you have a situation where somebody on Nevis, and Nevis, like I said, belong to us. Nevis belong to us. If we take the politics out of certain things, the people who have the know-how, who have the skills, who have the know-how, regardless of which side they're on, I believe things will be a lot better. A lot better. And so, the poultry farm was ordered. And here's where poor planning comes in. You order the farm, not going into the details of what the farm will require. And so you order the farm. We have the expertise, the expert here as to direct, you know, make suggestions and so, because he's accustomed to that. Now, you order the farm came, the farm was left at the port, and from this forum, the NRP Tell Me Forum, it was said that the farm needs to be taken out of the weather. They took it out of the weather and they store it
they store it up, and we now have to be paying for storage. The poor people, instead of getting something out of the farm, we have to be paying, making contributions for something that is not helpful to us. Again, poor planning. What, to my opinion, that money that was the farm was bought for, should have used for something else until when all the things, all the requirements are met. And then you order the farm. You're gonna get the feed from, how you're gonna get the feed, how you're gonna get the birds, and what it will take. Right? So you went and ordered the farm, and the farm is there. We have to be paying for storage for the farm, the taxpayers. Then that's not all. You have the expertise here in Niger to see about that aspect of it. You get somebody from Trinidad to come down here, pay somebody from Trinidad to come to Nevis, just to tell you, just to say that you ain't ready yet. When you have somebody on the ground here telling you just about the same thing. And this is what is happening. That is why you see we are in a situation as we are. Lack of planning. Same thing goes to geothermal. You had somebody who was running with geothermal in NRP. You try everything to make sure geothermal doesn't come. And this is one of the reasons why we are suffering. The same thing I would say about the hospital. Poor planning causing our country to be running on fumes. Tell me who said so? The country is running on fumes because of poor planning. We really like to see things go better in our country so that it will ease the weight of the poor taxpayers in this country. Things are really, really hard, I can tell you. It's really, really tough. Especially with single parents. And but things are tough. There's no two ways about it. I'd just like to back up a little bit concerning the crime. I believe if the problem with the crime, to my opinion, is sometimes something happens, and before we stop to think about the outcome of what may happen, we just get up and just run with it and do something foolish or something wrong. Sometimes we have to pause at times, think about the outcome of what will happen before we do with a foolish action. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The caller talked a lot about lack of planning, bad spending. The country is talking, and we're not going to go too deeply into it because we got so many other matters to deal with. But wherever you turn in the country, people are talking about the bad spending up at the Nevis, Culturama, Village, and Complex. The Premier earlier said, when asked a question at the athletic stadium, that you have to prioritize. We're not going to put stands in there because it is only used for a couple months of the year. Culturama lasts from July 26th to August 5th. 50th anniversary or not. And one of his callers tell him every week, nobody coming down here to watch no cultural complex and village. If he think he's going to get votes because of that, it's not going to happen. If I had anything to do with it, I would put that money into the Mondo track so that you can begin to develop a full-blown stadium which can be used for regional meets. Or, the caller alluded to the hospital, which has been stagnant for a year and a half. But yet he is putting down $5 million up there in the complex with 14 contractors for an 11-day period to host 6 shows.
And that's his priority.
And that's his priority. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP.
Steve, me again.
Uh-huh.
That's a big problem I got with this guy. The guy cannot spend money. He feel talking where he know people will like to hear with the lot of lies behind it. He could get over with it. That man will Chuck should have fixed with the $500 million. Still, one personal question before I left. Why is it the Cultural Committee don't want to give Vision 2020 Radio a contract to run the 50 years anniversary? Why not going to them? Why?
Well,
last year checking it out, you know.
Yeah.
That's where my bank they bring in Sinkers Navy stuff.
Well,
put that in it, this politics.
We've got an open platform here, so we invite the Minister of Culture, the Honorable Eric Evening.
Abernathy there too, because I abuse them. Abernathy, all of them playing the back bandit, playing dog, woman, bandly bringing them Nevis. You want him on the show too.
I'll give him a...
That's a worthless vagabond.
Okay.
I have no apology with them, with the nastiness.
Yeah.
They're sucking it up like Joe. Just what he's doing down here with the map, is that way Mark Brantley doing over there. They don't care. They don't want to empower people. They want to put you against one another. Have a good night.
Okay.
And Miss Daniel, you have the material. Carry it to the vagabond. Carry it to him. Don't fear people listening to you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much, caller. We've got 20 minutes. Janice, I know you want to talk about the United Nations SID conference, which opened today in Antigua and goes to the 30th. You've had involvement in it.
Yeah, well, just briefly, because the issues right now on the table are really more, compelling with regards to what the people of Nevis would be interested in. But interestingly, the United Nations conference in SID, it's really focusing. It's every 10 years, and it focuses on the small island developing states. And that is where you can address the issues that are, generally unique to small islands. And one of the key issues that has been looked at has to do with the multidimensional vulnerability index. Because our GDP exceeded a certain amount, we were no longer eligible to receive funding from some developed countries. And so I can recall I've done a couple of projects, wrote a couple of grants and got funding from like the German Development Bank and World Bank and other areas like that. And so once your GNI exceeds a certain amount, you're no longer eligible. And the case has been made that, you cannot use that single factor to determine our eligibility to receive foreign funds, because of course one hurricane and we back to having to rebuild. We have the issues with the impact from climate change, water scarcity, all of these issues. And the reason why the United Nations programs are so important is because that is where the discussions are had with regards to who are committing funding. The developed countries have a requirement, they're mandated to contribute a certain amount of their revenues to help these developing countries. And, when I see our premier taking loan after loan to, deal with electricity, to deal with agriculture and this sort of thing, it's just mind-boggling, because there are means and ways to access some funding. I am certain that there's a lot of funding that is being received to the country. Now, how much of that is reaching over to Nevis, I am not quite certain. But these are the areas where we really need to understand what agreements are signed, what the country would be receiving, and how would the people of Nevis benefit from those areas. I did participate. I participated in a forum what they call it was like on the margins of.
Mhm.
And so these conferences would feed into, you generate information here and you feed into those areas. And so I spoke about, the ecosystem-based approach to managing the blue economy, which is something that we have been pushing quite a bit. And so these are areas where we can actually diversify our economy. These are areas where we can even move towards energy, renewable energy. One of the biggest problems that I have with this system and their approach to weaning ourselves off of fossil fuels is that we are waiting on geothermal. And when you look around the Caribbean, if you look at St. Kitts, and you would see that there's some work being done in solar as well. Again, because we're a small island, small population, we can easily address 100% of our small businesses, our government buildings, through a proper grant funding program. But it seems to me that the CCM government is intent on taking loans, increasing the debt. The last thing they did, they bought a diesel generator. But you're not seeing any other uses of renewable energy, solar energy. I think Hosford's and one or two other private entities have, taken a stab in that area. But there is a lot that we can do. I'm very disappointed to see that the wind farm that was started. I mean, we were looking at 9-10 megawatts that we needed. Here we had the wind farm with a capacity to produce 2 megawatts. So you can see almost 10% of our energy could be coming from renewable from the wind. So we could have expanded on that, have a proper public-private partnership. And one of the things I find about this premier is that he wants to negotiate in a way that he feels that only he should benefit. And so when people are bringing their monies to invest, they want to get a return on their investments as well. I mean, imagine now we're paying almost 75 cents per kilowatt hour. And he was saying, well, NRP was negotiating, it was at 19 cents, and that's too high. And so he's still negotiating to try to get it down to single digits. So how are the investors going to recoup some of their funds? And that is, it's not just not understanding, but just looking at the fact that for geothermal, we have under the ordinance, we are mandated to have a geothermal advisory committee, which the premier totally ignores. So all of the conversations that he's having with the prime minister and what they're planning to do, put a new legal framework in place, where is the benefit of the geothermal advisory committee that we are mandated to have? And so he bypasses, he overlooks. There's no rhyme or reason to the way that he does things. It's like he wakes up one morning and says, oh, I think I should do this. Or you know what? I don't want to get any more blame for geothermal, so let me pass it over. Not recognizing that the ordinance gives you the ability to have your advisory committee, have your commission, and those are the people who will negotiate and move forward. I read a very interesting article regarding Guyana and their oil production. And the article said that so far, Exxon has paid $20 billion in taxes, but none to Guyana. And you must wonder who negotiated that agreement for the gas production in Guyana, so that Exxon can get their certificate saying that they have no tax obligations. And these are the things that are concerning to us when we see the way that the premier operates, as if he doesn't care, does not care to have experts around him to guide the areas that he's not familiar with. And so who did he consult when he decided to go and have a conversation with the Prime Minister about geothermal. Does he even understand geothermal? And, I get a bit passionate about this because we know that geothermal, to get it to the point where it is producing benefits for the people of Nevis, is going to require a significant amount of financial input. Then we recognize that, well, we can use the hydrogen for something else. We can export to different islands. Meanwhile, these different islands are using alternate sources. They're using solar, they're using wind, etc. So by the time we spend all of this money, I don't know how much debt we're going to get into, in order to sell it to these other countries, you're going to need infrastructure. It's not going to stay for me and jump over there. So that's additional cost again. Now, with Nevis having a small population, when we look at the economies of scale and when we look at what we could accomplish from wind energy and solar energy to satisfy the energy needs of our people first, right? Right now, our people are struggling while the government is trying to provide energy to sell. But we don't have the means to develop that. So where is the short, medium, and long-term approach? Where are the solar panels in the short term? Develop our wind in the medium term. And then the geothermal, you can do them simultaneously, but at least bring some relief
in the meantime
to the people in the short order. And these are the reasons why we have to let people know that what we are seeing now, that is not the right way, it is not the best way, it is not the only way, and it's definitely not the way that is in the best interest of the people of Nevis. And so we cannot sit back anymore because, as Rohan said, when are the increases going to stop? The hospital visits have doubled, right? And so it's just a matter of where else can we find to tax. So we've taxed the food at the supply office. We've taxed your water, your electricity. When are they going to stop? and we must demand that they stop. We cannot continue like this. People are struggling.
We've got just a few minutes, and I know you have got to deal with two other matters, Public Accounts Office and MSR.
No, I don't have to deal with MSR.
Oh, you won't deal with MSR. But let me say I must stick this in, or else I won't be forgiven. Dr. Patricia Bartlett, you're very popular. One of your constituents approached me in town today and they said, I love that lady. She's so forceful and so well researched. And he said, don't forget her birthday. It's on Saturday, June the 1st, just for you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you and all of you. Happy birthday to
Enjoy it when it comes on Saturday, and the whole month of June belongs to you. So, Dr. Daniel Hodge, you're going to sidestep MSR tonight, Public Accounts Office.
Well, you see,
Well, I shouldn't say sidestep, but we won't deal.
Yes, I don't like that word.
Okay, I take it back. I take it back.
Yes, because we do know that one of the reasons why the poor people of Nevis are struggling the way that we are is because so much of our resources were placed with MSR, right? And so whatever is happening right now, it's unfortunate that we are seeing the CBI, brought into such questioning and what's going to, happen to that at the end of the day. So how did the people of Nevis, and by extension, think it's benefit from the investment because you want to consider it an investment. So what we're saying now that you get to see MSR movie on a flight, and that translates
to what?
To millions of no, we can't buy that. We can't buy that. And you know, it's interesting because I've heard remarks made that I am here in politics because I want power. Power. I mean, those people who know me, I think they would put power and I at the furthest distance apart. But I would tell you who wants power, right? When you have the affairs of Nevis to run and to manage, and you decide that you want to be the leader of opposition in the Federal Assembly, and you cannot negotiate for the best interest of the people of Nevis, you cannot even hold the Prime Minister to account because you're so dependent on him. And so, you know, it's interesting. He did all the premier, he did all shenanigans, whatever, to give himself the authority to appoint the third member of the commission over here. But what does that benefit? What does that benefit him? There are other areas where we need a leader of opposition in Nevis. We don't have that. We know that he does not like to be questioned or challenged. And so he feels that by avoiding having a leader of opposition in Nevis, that he can get away. But he's the leader of opposition in St. Kitts.
And not opposing.
And
not even on the issue of crime, which is plaguing the country. No 2-point plan, 5-point plan, 6-point plan. He has no answers.
Yeah, so it's really, you know, a point where I cannot understand when the Prime Minister speaks about aspiring towards a sustainable island development state. We understand the 17 sustainable development goals. We understand what those goals speak to with regards to democracy and equality and you know, and to see the way it, you know, something needs to be done. Something needs to be done, because if the Prime Minister speaks so much about good governance and transparency and accountability, and the Public Accounts Committee is not even functioning as that check and balance. I mean, so I said I'm good, so yes, I'm good. No, I mean, we really have to look at all of these issues. And it cannot be that, you know, certain things are good in St. Kitts, but forget about what happens in Nevis, because I always say you cannot have a sustainable island state if one half of the state is sustainable and the other, well, 2/3 is sustainable and the other third of the state is not. And so there's some areas that, you know, would need some tightening up. And as time progresses, we're seeing more and more where the Premier's self-interest is becoming more and more detrimental to the people of Nevis and to the country on a whole. It is time enough for him to understand he cannot continue this way, burdening the people of Nevis with these high costs of living, high taxes, and continue. Did you hear about the trip to Spain?
Tenerife, I think it's called. Yeah, I heard about it.
I mean, what was the return on our investment?
It's coming soon.
I mean, these things that is his priority, they're only his priority. They benefit no one else. And these are the things that we have to address. I'll pause for now.
Okay, we've got just about a minute to 10. 30 seconds, Ronald. You're going to the Heartland tomorrow. You must be looking forward to that.
Always. I mean, it's always good to engage our constituents, engage in the vision public. We wholeheartedly believe that we are best placed to lead Nevis. Right now, we are ready and we are set. Absolute confidence in the party's leader and the caretakers that we do have currently, and so we're looking forward to engaging people tomorrow at the town hall meeting. I leave with this. The last time I was here, I left with this, and I leave with this again. Proper planning prevents poor performances.
Couldn't be a better way to end. The final word belongs to you, party leader.
Well, as I said at the outset, the approach that CCM takes to the governance of Nevis is poor. It puts excess burden on the people. NRP has a better approach. We have proven that over and over again. And I think it's time that the NRP be given an opportunity to once again bring peace, progress, and prosperity back to the people of Nevis.
We're at the top of the hour, and I must go to watch the Boston Celtics eliminate the Indiana Pacers and to go up against the Dallas Mavericks, who I predict will win the 2024 NBA championship. That's our show on a night when we remembered the great Dr. Sir Simeon Daniel, who transitioned 12 years ago, May 27, 2012. It was a Sunday. That's our show. We'll be back next week when we'll be in the month of June. Good night.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.